The blossoming of the United Arab Emirates in recent years is nothing short of a miracle. My travel partner, Tony Quinn, and I were determined to see it for ourselves. So in March of 2025, we flew across the Arabian Peninsula with its vast stretches of terrain that looked like this. We landed in the commercial capital of Dubai, where we spent 4 nights, then checked into an oasis resort in the desert for 2 nights, and ended our study trip in Abu Dhabi, the political capital of this new Arab powerhouse. Our expert guide, Fahim Abbas, was a Pakistani citizen, an import like 88% of all Emirati workers, and we had him to ourselves. We felt like pampered VIPs. The highway into Dubai felt like we were driving into any major city in the world. The difference was there were no skyscrapers here before 1979. And look at it now. Most of this skyline has shot up since the year 2000, a 21st century phenomenon. We were heading now to our hotel, the Indian-owned Taj Dubai. Our U.S. tour company, Alexander & Roberts, had made nothing but first-class arrangements for us throughout the trip. But before going inside, we saw that the city was growing before our very eyes. Here was yet another construction project in process, and as we craned our necks to look up, we got our first view of the world-famous Burj Khalifa, which is more than a half-mile high. As of the year 2025, this amazing structure reigned supreme as the tallest building in the world. Back on Earth, we entered our hotel and found it dramatically impressive and richly appointed. Look around. From our rooms high above the city, we enjoyed a panoramic view of Dubai's thick forest of skyscrapers. It's time for a selfie. Let's ascend the Burj Khalifa and see what Dubai looks like from its 148th floor observation deck. The ride up is entertaining. Needless to say, the view from up here is 360 degrees if you walk all the way around. Another way to get that view is to stand on the very top, a feat achieved by only 7 people so far. Actor Tom Cruise was one of them when he performed his own stunt in filming Mission Impossible. At that height, the wind can be an issue, with sway at the top up to 2 meters. But the irregular shape of the building is designed to minimize sway by scrambling wind patterns. The Burj Khalifa was completed in 2008, designed by Adrian Smith of the Chicago-based architectural firm Skidmore, Owens & Merrill. From here, on a clear day, we would be able to look across the south end of the Persian Gulf to see Iran. Now it's time to head down. Adjacent to the world's tallest building is the Dubai Mall, which boasts superlatives of its own. Covering 12 million square feet, it claims to be the largest indoor shopping mall in the world. It recorded 105 million visitors in 2023, coming mainly from India, the Middle East, and Europe. The Dubai Mall has 1,200 retail shops and offers 120 restaurants and cafes to please every international taste. We even ran across a bejeweled guitar, which claimed to be the world's most valuable at $2 million. The one thing you don't expect to find attached to a shopping mall is an aquarium. The Dubai Aquarium and Underwater Zoo showcases more than 140 species, including scores of sharks and rays in its 10 million liter tank. People of all ages, but especially young people, are mesmerized by the graceful parade of marine residents. It must have been dinner time when we were there, because divers were busy at work feeding their aquatic residents. I wouldn't want the honor of feeding the sharks. Dubai's state-of-the-art aquarium has several unusual features. It's built in multiple suspended levels, often creating separate environments on each level. An acrylic tunnel lets visitors walk 36 feet below the surface as sharks, rays, and other marine life glide gracefully overhead. I loved watching colorful tropical fish dart between coral formations. Not all the inhabitants are fish. There are turtles, of course. Penguins are always popular. For sheer eye candy, I think of these little guys as confetti with fins. It's iftar in Dubai, and we're heading to one of many sundown celebrations that occur in Muslim countries as the day of Ramadan fasting ends. Allowances are made for those who aren't Muslims, so we weren't inconvenienced. But if there was to be good food and entertainment, we wanted to be part of it. Our destination was a fine dining experience at an Indian restaurant, Abd el Wahab, that overlooked the Burj Khalifa lake. Yes, the world's tallest building has its own artificial 30-acre lake, and the lake is known primarily as home of the Dubai Fountain and its nightly water and light shows. The lake is surrounded by restaurants like ours, and the show began for us almost without warning. We learned that the Burj Khalifa's entire facade is covered with over 1 million LED lights capable of being computer controlled at the pixel level for precise color and brightness. It took 155 miles of cable to install the system. And the advertising you see is a major revenue producer for Emaar Properties, which developed this building and many more in Dubai. Want to buy some stock? You can. Emaar is a publicly traded company in which the two largest shareholders are the royal family of Dubai and the Sovereign Wealth Fund of the UAE. Now relax for the next minute or so and enjoy the show. Dessert took many forms. but none could top what we had just seen. We've focused so far on Dubai's pride and joy, the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, and the impressive neighborhood that surrounds it. But let's take a step back in time to when Dubai was distinguished by its so-called creek, a natural seawater inlet that was once the heart of commerce in this awakening metropolis. Yes, the creek is still called the creek. One thing hasn't changed, though. Water taxis, that is, traditional wooden abras they call them, seem to be everywhere. We had to try them out ourselves. No longer are commercial fishermen diving for natural pearls off the coast. Dubai's historic pearl industry was forever eclipsed by cultured pearls from Japan. Yet commercial fishing has always been important, and the city continues to be a major trading center and port city for the Middle East. The signs on these shops made me smile. Happy wife, lucky life, happy night. We tourists, of course, love the traditional marketplaces known as souks that have grown quite modern over time, and in many cases have moved indoors. A display window filled with gold jewelry drew us into a gold souk, and temptation just grew from there. Shop after shop competed for our attention. Look around and be dazzled. Here's a gift idea for the ladies in my family. Don't worry, girls, I wouldn't dare. We were getting used to admiring Dubai's soaring skyline until one evening we were startled to see a circular structure that seemed to challenge the city's skyscraper orthodoxy. We found out it was the Museum of the Future, so the next morning we made a short stop to check it out. Inside, the height was that of a 21-story building. The dome had been wrapped in a stainless steel facade of Arabic calligraphy showcasing quotes of Dubai's ruling sheikh, Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. Robotics were on display the day we were there. Want a cup of coffee? Here's a mechanical barista at your service. I don't think Starbucks needs to worry just yet. This little guy was a crowd favorite. If he represents the future, I'm looking forward to being entertained. I love the varied skyscraper shapes as we approach the Dubai Marina. Behold, a corkscrew. It's the 75-story Cayenne Tower, which makes a 90-degree twist as it rises. Yes, you can live here. It's designed as residential. The marina itself is actually a man-made inlet from the Persian Gulf, providing a happy home for luxury yachts. If you don't have a yacht, you can still enjoy the nearby beach at no charge. It's called the Beach at JBR, named for two Jumeirah beach residences, that is, JBR hotels, that offer luxury accommodations on what has been called Dubai's trendiest beach. To our left is the sail-shaped Burj Al Arab Hotel, and to our right is the pyramid-shaped Marsa Al Arab Hotel. But the sun-seeking vacationers you see here didn't come to hide away in fancy hotels, no matter how distinctive or luxurious they are. They're here to enjoy the soft white sand and do what we all do when we hit the beach. Nearby, we caught a different view of the Burj Al Arab Hotel and took note of the helicopter pad attached to its 28th floor. Would you believe that it's been used as a car racetrack, a boxing ring, and, most famously, a tennis match between Roger Federer and Andre Agassi? We're standing in a very upscale shopping area, where we spotted a family of visitors commuting on an Abra-style water taxi from their fancy hotel to Souk Madinat. No surprise, Souk Madinat is another Jumeirah property, recreating a traditional Middle Eastern marketplace with Arabian-style architecture. Winding corridors, covered arcades, and merchant stalls offering both fancy goods and artisan crafts. I was fascinated with some of the clever signs that adorned the corridors. The size and scope of this bazaar is captured in a map. Finally, we wandered into a shop. You're bound to see something you like here. If you do, you can buy two and get one free. That kind of promotion is universal. Outside Souk Madinat, we saw a large crescent moon sculpture that turned out to be a Ramadan decoration. Very attractive. We were lucky to be visiting at a special time of year. As we went in search of an earlier view of the Emirates, we passed the well-protected grounds of Dubai's royal family. This is as close as we could get to visiting the Sheikh. Soon we found ourselves in an historic neighborhood about to enter a souk or trading market that hasn't changed much since the 1970s. This isn't a recreation of tradition. This is tradition itself, largely unchanged in the Al Fahidi historical neighborhood. No gleaming skyscrapers here or busy thoroughfares. Our reward was a cultural immersion in the form of a luncheon at the Sheikh Mohammed Center for Cultural Understanding. Our host welcomed us and explained who might live in a house like this.
Now, who used to live in these houses? They were the whole extended family. So, grandparents, their children, and their grandsons and granddaughters would be living.
Lunch followed, with cushions provided for sitting on the floor. We were invited to help ourselves to an enticing array of typical Emirati dishes, serving ourselves from the center of the room. There was rice, of course, with chicken, veal, salad, an unusual pumpkin dish, and, for dessert, sweet dumplings drizzled with syrup that had been made from dates. The setting was relaxed. We were curious about how couples meet and date.
Initially, she would ask me, "Do you want to go? Do you want this one or this one? What do you think?" Now, after the blind date, that would be for like I would say an hour. We would, in this blind date, me and the lady, we would talk about, let's say, the basic things, the initial things. Maybe she wanted to tell me she doesn't want to work. Maybe she tells me she wants to work. Maybe I want to tell her I don't want her to work if she decides to get married.
Even in the Emirates, married life is a negotiation. Upon leaving the luncheon, we saw a large star, a Ramadan decoration, we were told. We felt guilty for having eaten before sundown, but as it turns out, tourists are exempt. If you were the ruler of Dubai and wished you had more beachfront property to attract visitors and investors, what would you do? Why, you'd use dredging and landfill to create some islands, of course. You could even accommodate skyscrapers, lots of them, and hotels, high-rise apartments, townhomes, and villas. Call your project the Palm Jumeirah and take a look 25 years later at what you've created. You've made it memorable by arranging the islands in the shape of a palm tree, with a trunk running up the middle, fronds branching out on either side, and a circular breakfront forming a halo around it. The centerpiece of the Palm Jumeirah had to be an iconic hotel, so it came to pass that the famed Atlantis Hotel became the first one to open in the Palm Jumeirah. Since then, it's been joined by about 30 more hotels located along the trunk of the palm tree and spread out on the crescent surrounding it. The fronds are mostly filled with luxury homes. So how is this bold real estate venture working out? Dubai has increased its shoreline in the Persian Gulf by 320 miles and added more than 25,000 wealthy residents to its population. Very clever. One way to get an overview of what I'm talking about is to take a ride on the monorail that connects the Palm Gateway on the mainland to the Atlantis Aquaventure. Did I mention that a very tempting water park is adjacent to the Atlantis? The monorail train runs every 15 minutes, straight up and down the trunk of the pine tree. From it, you can see some of the residential properties that line the fronds of the palm tree layout. If you don't want to own a villa, there are some very classy apartment and condo homes to consider. Now we're headed back and can see the full majesty of Atlantis the Palm. Back in our car, we soon came to a newer Atlantis property, Atlantis the Royal it's called, which has become an instant architectural icon. In 2023, Beyoncé was hired to headline its grand opening, complete with lavish fireworks. She was reportedly paid several $million for her performance. If you'd like a top-down view of the Palm Jumeirah, you can go aloft in the Dubai Balloon, another Atlantis offering. As we were driving on the breakwater that encircles Palm Jumeirah, we were witness to a jet ski race. Here's how the skyline of Palm Jumeirah looks from the breakwater surrounding it. It's much more extensive than I would have thought. Very impressive. Our tour company had chartered a yacht to show us around, so we made our way to the marina to see what man hath wrought in the Persian Gulf. No need for a lot of explanation of what we'll be viewing, so I'll take this opportunity to share the story of how 3 generations of the royal family transformed Dubai from a small desert settlement to the most modern city in the Middle East. Dubai has been ruled by the Al Maktoum family since 1833, but it was Sheikh Rashid bin Saeed Al Maktoum who was the driving force behind Dubai's expansion. When oil was discovered in 1966, he used that windfall to invest in infrastructure. He dredged Dubai Creek, built Port Rashid, and developed Dubai International Airport. By 2024, Dubai's airport was the world's busiest by international passenger traffic. When he declared Dubai a free trade zone, its logistics business exploded. He was followed by Sheikh Maktoum bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who advanced education and, as a philanthropist, funded projects like a handicapped center, orphanages, and schools. He was known as a leader who formed a close bond with his people. Today's ruler, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, has proven to be an amazing visionary whose goal is to make the UAE one of the best, most forward-looking countries in the world. He's a builder and real estate wizard who is known for overseeing projects like the Palm Islands, Burj Al Arab, and Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building. He's responsible for the much-admired Emirates airline and has brought his nation into the space age, launching a Mars probe, sending an astronaut to the International Space Station, and announcing a lunar mission. As we head back to the Dubai Marina, I have to ask, are you as impressed as I was with the concept, size, and scope of the Palm Jumeirah? If so, just wait until you see what's coming next. The Palm Jumeirah was only the first of the Palm Islands to be developed, but construction is quite far along on Palm Jebel Ali, which will be 50% larger than Palm Jumeirah. Also underway is construction of Palm Deira, another big palm-shaped archipelago. Then we can look forward to the world. I'm not kidding. These are additional man-made island projects under development. I must say, the business-minded rulers of the Emirates certainly think big and aren't afraid to push the boundaries. For a totally different view of the Emirates, we drove into the desert. Wind-blown sand paved our way, as if it were water washing over the highway. I'm just glad I wasn't driving. The illusion can be disorienting. Fortunately, we had the road to ourselves. We had entered the Rub al-Khali, known as the Empty Quarter Desert. Well named, I would say. Our destination was a luxury resort that seemed almost out of character for the bleak terrain surrounding it. A modern oasis, if you will, complete with swimming pools, palm trees, and unending sand dunes. We had our choice of several refreshing pools, each one more tempting than the last. Take a look around. The buildings themselves were distinctively Middle Eastern, with interior spaces and furnishings that transported us to an exotic Arab world we had only experienced in books and movies. We had checked into the Qasr al-Surab Desert Resort by Anatara. It sprawled over more buildings than I could see from my terrace. We had a choice. We could relax by one of several pools and be pampered by attentive serving staff, or help ourselves to a well-equipped coffee bar inside. Exotic coffees, to be sure. Sun or shade? With important decisions like these, we could easily get spoiled. As we waited for our falconry demonstration to begin, we munched on fancy dates, a specialty of this part of the world. I caught sight of a silhouette sculpture of a camel caravan that looked almost lifelike against the backdrop of endless dunes. We had been looking forward to learning about the ancient sport of falconry, as practiced by descendants of the nomadic Bedouin tribes of this area. So we left the pampered luxury of our desert resort hotel to set off across sand dunes on a somewhat improvised road. Some of the terrain got a bit rugged. I'm glad my back surgery had mostly healed after 6 months. Soon we came to a training and demonstration area, where we were greeted by our welcoming hosts, who offered us coffee and introduced us to the various birds who would be performing. The hungry raptors were waiting patiently on perches, each wearing a hood, which we learned is the most important piece of equipment used in training and controlling a falcon. Peter here, we were told, is a peregrine falcon, capable of a steep hunting dive, or stoop as they call it, coming down at more than 200 miles per hour. This Saker falcon is the national bird of the United Arab Emirates and is capable of reaching over 90 miles an hour in level flight. These birds of prey are two of the fastest animals on Earth. Wait, what's an owl doing among the falcons? Well, an owl is another form of raptor who can also swoop down on prey in lethal pursuit of rodents and birds. He didn't want to be left out. Now it's time to show off. We were about to see a demonstration of lure flying, in which the hood is removed, the bird is released, and another falconer swings a feathered object as bait through the air to invite an attack. The bait is swung again and again. and again, and again, tantalizingly through the air, until the bird swoops by at high speed and catches it. It happened so fast, I couldn't really follow the action. Usually the bird comes back to the falconer, but not always. One went AWOL while we were watching, and a search party was sent to find it. But a well-trained bird sticks around to savor its reward. In this case, chunks of meat offered by the bird's trainer. Yum! Saluki dogs are part of the falconer team. Here's a mechanical device for lure coursing, which uses a line and pulley to simulate rapidly moving prey for the Saluki to chase. Salukis are sight hounds as opposed to scent hounds, and are exceptionally fast, clocking speeds up to 42 miles an hour. Don't blink, here comes the lure. Hey, what's with the leash? You'll just have to trust me on the speed. At the end of the day, Tony and I took turns posing with the performers. The dogs were very good with people. But a falcon was best kept at arm's length. Dusk came as we headed back to our hotel. There were no road signs to guide us, but we were confident our driver could navigate the dunes, even with no GPS. The next morning, we said goodbye to the empty quarter desert as we left to tour a falcon hospital in Abu Dhabi. Falcons are seen as status symbols within Emirati society, especially among the sheikhs, and they receive first-class medical treatment. We visited the Abu Dhabi Falcon Hospital, which opened in 1999 and was the first and still is the largest hospital in the world dedicated to the care of falcons. It takes care of 11,000 falcons per year, but does so much more. Besides providing veterinary and shelter services for a variety of bird species, its mission has expanded to include education, training, and research. It even cares for dogs and cats now. Certainly its waiting room looked like every veterinary hospital I've ever been in. It's when we went to meet the patients that we realized that we were about to be educated. We were in a large treatment room also used for demonstrations, and we were assured that the birds standing by were not the private patients of Emirati royalty, but rather birds owned by the hospital who were about to get routine attention. The hospital claims that regular medical care for falcons extends their life expectancy by about 5 years on average. Some of the birds waiting to be seen may need to have microchips implanted, or tail mounts for transmitters. The falcon you see here has been anesthetized to have some routine work done on its talons or beak. While it's asleep, we can admire its beautiful wingspan of about 4 feet. Falconers talk of a procedure called coping. That's a fancy word for going to a nail spa. Coping means trimming and reshaping a falcon's talons and beak to keep them sharp and the proper length. The beaks and talons of wild birds are worn down naturally by activities like crunching the bones of prey. But captive birds need periodic tune-ups. Let's watch to see how it's done.
Normally it's not only cut, after that what we have to do, we have to remove the extra keratin around the nails to make them sharp and clean. For hunting season they need the sharp nails to grab the prey, because nails are not growing only front, they are growing around area also. So actually, the hunting season is over, the owner they don't want sharp nails because these birds are going to free flying in the cages for next 4 to 5 months, 6 months.
Sometimes a falcon needs repair to a wing or a replacement tail feather. This is called imping. That is, having a broken feather replaced by an undamaged one, using a special connector that's glued inside the shafts of the broken and donor feathers. Don't worry, the bird would feel no pain, since feathers are made of keratin, the same as our hair and nails. For more complex procedures, the hospital has fully equipped ICUs and operating rooms. No visitors allowed. Now it was time for audience participation. One gentleman in our group was given the opportunity to let a falcon eat from his hand. The prey in this case was quail. Whoever said that hospital food was second-rate? I too had a chance to get up close and personal with this beautiful Saker falcon. Then it was Tony's turn. From there, we were taken to another building for a flight demonstration. Oops, I think I missed it. This is what my camera should have caught. Still too fast? Well, let's replay that last flyby at 1/5 the speed. Okay, that works, sort of. Heading outside, I was impressed with the size of the hospital campus. I guess it would have to be large to house up to 200 birds in individual air-conditioned rooms. Falcons are indeed beloved in the Emirates. Having started our trip in the city of Dubai, and now coming to Abu Dhabi where we will end our visit, I can't help but compare and contrast the two largest cities of the United Arab Emirates. We'll start with a view from our hotel, the Conrad, in Abu Dhabi. As we look out, we see that just like Dubai, Abu Dhabi shows off gleaming skyscrapers where none existed 50 years ago. Both cities have benefited enormously from oil wealth, although Abu Dhabi is the big winner here. The Emirate of Abu Dhabi holds more than 95% of the UAE's proven oil and gas reserves, which doesn't leave much for Dubai and the other 5 Emirates. Shipping, trade, and tourism underscore the vibrant economy of Dubai, while Abu Dhabi, as the nation's capital, is the center of government, sovereign wealth management, and, of course, the oil industry. One remarkable feature both cities have in common is their focus on islands. Dubai is furiously building man-made islands to expand into the Persian Gulf, whereas Abu Dhabi was able to start with some natural islands, even preserving some as wilderness areas, and is building more through land reclamation. Our cultural tour of Abu Dhabi started with a visit to the oldest stone building in the original settlement, one dating back to 1761. We found it in the shadow of some very modern skyscrapers. It started as a watchtower to protect the only fresh water well on the island of Abu Dhabi. Then in 1793, the tower was expanded into a fort and became the permanent residence of the ruling Al Nahyan family. As the palace fort, it bore the name Qasr al-Hassan and served as the seat of government until 1966. Over the years, this historic landmark has been updated and preserved. Today, of course, it's a national monument and museum, open to the public. Feel free to look around. Today's presidential palace, Qasr Al Wadin, was completed in 2017, and it was built to impress. You're looking at the official headquarters for the United Arab Emirates. The palace serves as a venue for political and diplomatic events, while offering visitors like us cultural insight into the nation's heritage. Although Qasr Al Wadin is called a palace, royalty is not in residence here. The UAE's president, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, lives elsewhere in the city and is considered the head of state. However, the prime minister is Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who lives in Dubai. He's considered head of government. I'll let them sort out the difference. but that's one heck of a commute. Beyond the opulence, we saw meeting and banquet rooms that looked very functional. This one appears perfect for entertaining visiting dignitaries on a grand scale. And here's one that seems tailor-made for meetings of the nation's Supreme Council. The UAE has been described as a federal semi-constitutional monarchy made up of 7 emirates or sheikdoms. Since Abu Dhabi covers more than 75% of the UAE's total land area, it was chosen as the nation's capital. The British, who were active in the Persian Gulf, withdrew from the area in 1971. As a parting favor to the 7 emirates who wanted to join together, the Brits suggested how the borders between them could be drawn in order to avoid territorial disputes. The ruling families agreed, and the UAE was born. Since then, the new nation has recognized Israel, signed on to the Abraham Accords, and emerged as a commercial powerhouse in the Middle East. The British must still be held in high esteem, as evidenced by the presence of this display case filled with British memorabilia. Is this another government building? No, this is a mosque. And it's not just any mosque. The Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque is one of the world's largest and most beautiful mosques. However, we found entrance to the mosque a little unusual. We had to pass through an underground mall. Parking is provided down there, so that's helpful. There's also food and restrooms, and shops, which could be handy if your attire is not modest enough. I found an ice cream stand above ground and started my visit there. Nearby was a place to sit.
So that once you are back home, you'll be watching this reel, you can think of this moment.
Oh,
How's this ice cream?
it's good ice cream. I've seldom had bad ice cream.
Okay.
Once we reached the entrance, I began to understand why this mosque was identified as one of the top global attractions by TripAdvisor. And Traveler's Choice Awards ranked it number 3 out of 750 landmarks they evaluated. I was struck by the expansive, gleaming white marble floor with its inlaid floral designs, surrounded by white stone passageways and domes. Lots of domes. We learned that there are 80 white marble domes on this mosque, supported by 1,000 pillars. I don't know about you, but I'm easily impressed by rows and rows of pillars. When I asked about the size of the facility, I was told that this mosque could safely hold 41,000 worshippers. It's an Islamic country, so large capacity makes sense. Construction began in 1996 under the administration of the late President Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, who had been a leading figure in founding the United Arab Emirates back in 1971. He sourced materials from all over the world, not just stone and marble, but gold, semi-precious stones, crystals, and ceramics. We saw all of this represented in the tasteful decor on columns, walls, and floors throughout the mosque. Intricate mosaics are used for the varied floral designs. Gold leaf is generously used for column capitals. And chandeliers feature sparkling Swarovski crystals. We weren't allowed to walk on the carpet you see here, and I found out why. It broke all world records for its size. 60,570 square feet, requiring 2.2 billion knots. It took 2 years for more than 1,200 artisans to complete it. No surprise, it came from Iran's carpet company, taking Persian carpets to a whole new level. As for the mosque itself, more than 3,000 workers from 38 contractors did the construction over a period of 11 years. The internal prayer halls were opened in 2007. Stepping outside, we catch sight of one of the 4 minarets that we understand is the height of a 35-story building. The sheer scale of the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque is both inspiring and humbling. Breaking news! A flying saucer has landed in Abu Dhabi. Correction. This is not a flying saucer. It's a distinguished art museum. The Louvre Abu Dhabi, a cultural exchange partnership between the famous Paris Museum and the UAE's capital city. We are on Saadiyat Island, about to visit the inaugural project of Abu Dhabi's planned cultural district. Contained beneath this massive dome are 55 buildings, of which 23 are art galleries. Don't worry, French architect Jean Nouvel planned this museum city with plenty of room. The diameter is nearly 600 feet. Once inside, you can begin to appreciate the magnitude of this astounding complex. Overhead and almost appearing to float are 7,500 tons of steel and aluminum. That's roughly equivalent to the weight of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. The dome has 8 layers, 4 outer layers of stainless steel and 4 inner layers of aluminum. The starlight cutouts are positioned to filter the sun in continuously changing patterns throughout the day. The effect on the ground is like sunlight projected through the leaves of palm trees. We entered the museum by land, but the effects are equally stunning if you arrive by the Persian Gulf. Here's a perspective that took me inside Cubist art. To see this museum properly would normally take about 3 or 4 hours, but I'm going to give you a tiny taste of what we saw in about a minute. As you can see, the art comes from many time periods, takes many forms, and comes from all over the world. Since the ultimate goal is to bridge the gap between Western and Eastern art, the assumption is that by the year 2047, when the Louvre partnership ends, Abu Dhabi curators will have acquired their own collection, reflecting whatever cultural balance they ultimately seek. I must admit my camera seems particularly attracted to sculpture, but rest assured, the museum is rich in paintings and other media, representing many periods and styles. At any given time, the museum is host to multiple temporary exhibitions as well. Now here's a familiar face. It's Gilbert Stuart's 1822 portrait of George Washington, just as he appears on the $1 bill, but facing the other way. The artist made more than 100 copies of this famous painting. As we left Saadiyat Island, we saw a couple more cultural development projects underway. Here, believe it or not, is the Guggenheim Abu Dhabi, preparing to feature contemporary art. The designer is Canadian-American architect Frank Gehry. From a distance, we got a glimpse of, what are these? Falcon wings. This dramatic structure will define the forthcoming Zayed National Museum. With that last look at Abu Dhabi, we ended a most interesting introduction to the Emirates. A succession of forward-thinking sheikhs has created a miracle in the desert in less than 50 years. Oil money may have started the process, but without exceptional vision and leadership from its rulers, the UAE would probably be indistinguishable from other oil-rich countries in the Middle East. We returned home very impressed and very hopeful.